Last night I saw somebody on Facebook say that deJohnette had passed away, and so I went to check it out. I was quite upset really, but I checked it out on the internet, Googling it, and there didn't seem to be any news. I waited and watched Wikipedia for about half an hour, nothing happened. So I went to bed. This morning I've got up and gone into work, or my studio, whatever you want to call it, and I have basically been YouTubing all day. Just got back home now, reviewing the footage, and a friend of mine messaged me saying something about deJohnette. I thought, that's interesting, he's mentioned him. So I've just gone online, and he did die yesterday, 26th of October 2025. I believe he was sort of 80, what would he have been? 80, born in 1943, was he? This video is really, really unrehearsed. I've literally found out like 1 minute ago. So I thought I'd grab the camera before the light goes, basically. I'm at home, and I thought I'd try and grab it before the light goes, because there's no other way of filming it, because I wanted to get my ideas down about deJohnette. This is a giant in the world of jazz. He's a giant in the world of drumming, and he was a giant in terms of inspiration to me as a musician. I would say deJohnette. Where do we start with this? deJohnette emerged in the 1960s. He sort of came to prominence playing with Charles Lloyd. Charles Lloyd was exploring a sort of modal Coltrane approach to jazz, but he would also play wearing a kaftan, and the stuff was very psychedelic, and he just caught the cultural period just right, Charles Lloyd did. And his band sort of was a hit on the college circuit. deJohnette was this incredible drummer who was coming out of that same time that had produced drummers like Elvin Jones and Tony Williams. He was actually a couple of years older than Tony Williams, I believe. I believe he was born in 1943, but I'm not sure, because like I said, I've just jumped on this straight away, but it'll be in the thumbnail for the video. For me, he seemed to explore an area that was somewhere between Elvin and Tony Williams. It was absolutely virtuoso. His approach to timekeeping, his approach to swing, his approach to solos and telling stories, his approach to controlling energy on the drums was absolutely incredible. He then gets picked up by Miles Davis and replaces Tony Williams, and is the drummer on Miles's sort of exploration into jazz rock fusion. Now, there's a story that deJohnette told that Miles used to, pick him up in his Ferrari and drive him off, and he would play him James Brown in the car, and he would make him listen to James Brown over and over again. He didn't say this to deJohnette, but Jack decided that what he was trying to tell him was that he wanted him to play with his sort of freedom and jazz movement and all this type of thing that he does, or that Elvin thing that he does, but he wanted to do it in that sort of 16th note syncopated James Brown way. And that was the take that deJohnette approached the Miles stuff with. This is highly influential, and it was actually influential on drummers decades later. Everyone from Lewis Cole to Chris Dave, their style is rooted in deJohnette on those recordings. Now, a very interesting story that deJohnette tells in an interview he did relatively recently was the time he played with Coltrane. deJohnette played with John Coltrane. He was actually playing in a club. He was very young at the time, and Coltrane was going to be playing there later that evening, and they found out that Elvin wouldn't be able to make it, so he's either cancelled the gig or try and find a drummer. Jack was very young, but he knew the club owner, and the club owner vouched for him, so Coltrane said, okay, if you said he's good, we'll put him on. So deJohnette ends up doing this gig with John Coltrane. And Jack DeJohnette said that as he started to play, he could feel that Coltrane was gliding on the energy that he was providing, so he started to provide that energy. I feel that energy is a key thing with Jack DeJohnette. And he said as he started to provide energy to Coltrane, Coltrane took that energy in fully, and so he provided more. So Coltrane took it, and he said it was a bottomless pit. The more energy you put in, the more Coltrane took it. It just kept on going. It kept on going. Now, energy on the drums is something that we don't talk about that much. People talk about groove, and they talk about chops, and they talk about metric modulation and all this stuff, bending the time. But really what a drummer's doing, it's not about keeping the time. In a good band with a good set of musicians, everybody's keeping the time. And also, what is the time? Because the time can be all sorts of things. And throughout the 1960s, the jazz drummers were exploring time in all sorts of ways. But fundamentally, it was about a drummer. What they're doing is they're organising energy. There is an energy when you play, and it flows up and down. A drummer is providing that bed on which people sit. The groove is part of that. The forward motion is part of that. The energy is part of that. The drummers that came out of the bebop era were almost like it was question and answer. They were responding to the players, with hits and baps. It was a bit like the sort of hits that the big band would play in response to the main melody, which is based upon the sort of, three-voice front line of New Orleans. It's all about question and answer. But towards the end of the 50s, early 60s, drummers start to think about other ways of providing time. And you start to get this sort of frothing power thing that's coming out. Philly Joe Jones is doing it to some extent. Then Art Blakey comes out. And Art Blakey provides this bed on which everything is sat. Then Elvin comes out and Tony comes out and Jack DeJohnette. And for me, they are the three Paul Motions in there as well. It's like playing in a way where you're supporting the musicians, but you could always tip those musicians over. It's like you provide the wave that they sit upon, but that wave could send them tumbling into the ground, unless you're Coltrane, and then Coltrane can just take the waves bigger and bigger and bigger. Keith Jarrett once said that music is about organising different energy levels without destroying them. Jack DeJohnette is the master of that sort of drumming. It's frothy. It's also, this is one, we've talked about so many people recently who died. A few weeks ago I was talking about D'Angelo. A few days ago I was talking about Anthony Jackson. I can't really get across, I don't think, how this is a giant. This is a really, this is a big one. This is a Jack DeJohnette is an absolute. There is nobody. He's unequaled. He's incomparable, and he's unequaled. And I don't know where to start with him. I've got so many stories I could tell here. I can remember back when I was playing with Robert Plant and the guys in the crew when we were driving back one night, and they'd been playing all their sort of music, which was sort of very, I was a little bit middle of the road, for me and my friend Kevin Gammon. He's just the guy that's just texted me actually about this. And Kevin nudged me, he said, "You bought that Jack DeJohnette album, didn't you, today?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "Let's put that on." So we overrode the crew and put our album on, and we were driving along, and it was incredibly energetic. It was incredibly free. Really was, and it was going on, and normally I would have loved it, but knowing other people were there, I knew it was too much for them. And this one guy was sat there driving along and all quiet, and then he couldn't take it anymore. He suddenly went, switch it off, and it was like this explosion. He has played in so many incredible bands. Like I said, Charles Lloyd and Miles Davis. He had an association with ECM, played with virtually everybody on that. Incredible stuff with Tahei Ripdal. He's did the John Abercrombie albums, Timeless, Jan Hammer, and other groups like that. It just goes on and on. It's really hard to get this across. If you don't know who Jack DeJohnette is, then I don't know what to say. This is an absolute giant. If you didn't know him, it would probably be best to start off with the trio recordings with Keith Jarrett. And there's a lot of them, and they explore all sorts of different territory. Standards Volume 2 is a good place to start for Keith Jarrett. I've got a lot of those albums. Some of them, they are just playing jazz standards, but they also did albums where they collected together all the free improvisation they did, or all the stuff where there was no chord changes. There's a lot of stuff there. That group really takes the jazz standard as a bed and then brings out so much. So there's so much expression in the jazz standard. It is, Keith Jarrett is really exploring it's not limits, it's the opposite of limits. It's the infinite expression that is actually contained within a piano jazz trio playing jazz standards. The realization that everything is there. There is absolutely everything there. As long as the musicians are so filled with the love of each other that they can react. When people talk about the empathy between musicians, that they seem to be, and this is what you get with those trios with Jack DeJohnette, Gary Peacock, and Keith Jarrett, it's like they just seem to know what each other's thinking. That's because there's so much love there. It's to do with love, and it's to do with loving what the other musicians are doing so much, and then living with that, and so that you are embracing each other in a way. This is the power of music. Jack DeJohnette is that heavy a player. Never did he compromise, right? It's really hard to think of some mad disco album. I mean, maybe they're there. I've never heard them. For the whole of his career, he did not compromise. Everything is absolutely heavyweight. And he was able to do stuff which was actually very accessible in a way. Sometimes, I think of this playing on Herbie Hancock's new standard album, incredible, where they're playing sort of pop songs but playing them in a jazz way. That's incredible. Some of the stuff he did on the Michael Brecker albums, solo albums, incredible playing. He played with Pat Metheny. He's on Song X with Ornette Coleman, playing very free with Pat Metheny. If I was to assemble, I'm going to do it. There will be a video in the next few days where I'm going to go through my, say, 10 favourite Jack DeJohnette albums as a tribute to this man. I don't know what he's died of. I don't know how ill he was, whether it's been a long or short term thing. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. And it's like, I was chatting to someone about Jack DeJohnette, another YouTuber, about who would be the people we'd really want to interview if we had the chance. And Jack DeJohnette came up within about 3 or 4 choices, and we discussed what we would ask him, what we want to know, what was it like to do this session, what was it like to do that session. And now he's gone. And you can't ask it anymore. That's it. There's no more Jack DeJohnette. There's no more drumming. There's no more sound. There's all gone. I find it quite upsetting. That's what I find upsetting, is that you live in a world with one set of choices, and then it's gone. That person's gone. Certain musicians are like that. It's like a whole world there. Well, I love Vinnie Colledge. I love Steve Gadd, Terry Bozzio, Billy Cobham, Nora Michael Walden. I love them all. Jack DeJohnette represented something to me. What is it? I can't put it into words. I think it's jazz drumming. He could do fusion stuff. He could do rock stuff. He could play funky. But he really was a jazz drummer. Jack DeJohnette was, for me, the greatest jazz drummer of all time. Really, for me. And I think if I was playing funk, I might have wanted to sound like, I don't know, Clyde Stubblefield, or maybe Zigaboo, or maybe Steve Gadd. I've got certain set of things if I wanted to play like fusion, it'd be like Nora Michael Walden or Billy Cobham. But if I was playing jazz, I wanted to be like Jack DeJohnette. This is something else. This is something else. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. The greats are slowly going. They're passing into myth. You know, I'm on the YouTube channel, and every time somebody passes, I jump on straight away and I do my tribute. People may think it's callous. They might think I'm doing it for the views, and the views. This one, I found out too late. You know, I've been off in my own little world. You know, if I'd done one last night, I might be the first one out. This is all the callous things that we think. But the truth is, I can't explain how much I love these musicians, and how for like 40, nearly 50 years of my life, this was the guy. In fact, I had albums by deJohnette. I thought it must be some French bloke with a name like that, I can remember. And then one evening, around about 1986 it would have been, so that's nearly 40 years ago, on BBC Two they had a concert, and it was like they got Blue Note had reinvigorated itself, and they put a special concert together with all the greats on there. And I think there was a guy called Benny Wallace, and he was doing this sort of quite free saxophone thing, and I was recording it on video, and I was also listening to it on the headphones because my mom and dad wanted to watch something else, you see. So I wanted to listen to it. So I was listening to it, and I didn't know who was who, so I was trying to guess who. That's Tony Williams, that's Herbie Hancock, that's Art Blakey, and I was trying to recognise them. And then this drumming came in, and I could not believe it. I thought, what the hell this? And the thing is, in the Radio Times, which is what told you it was on, they said that Tony Williams was on Art Blakey. That was the only drummers they mentioned. They hadn't mentioned Jack deJohnette. So this, and I can remember thinking, this is, nobody can play like this. Like even Tony Williams, I was aware, I think nobody can play. What the hell's this? Eventually, you know, when a bed got up the next day, put the video on. These are the events that sort of changed my life. These little events that happened in the house, you know. And I put the videotape on. I started watching. It got to this bit. It was Jack deJohnette. And when I looked at him playing trad grip, and he was moving around the kit, and he was playing. I mean, when you play drums, you'll play singles, maybe doubles. If you're really good, you might play triples. You know, when you play 3 beats all in one hand very fast. He was playing 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s. You know, it was insane, and the energy and power that was coming across, and the way he was keeping time, the way it was tumbling. He'd broken out of the rigidity of the clock. I can sit here going on about Jack deJohnette forever and ever, right? I'm paying tribute. This is all I can do. This is all I can do. You know, is come out, and I mean the thing that about these things, when you hear someone's died like this, sometimes I have to do a little bit of research. You know, I'll do a video, but I like that person, and I'm going to pay tribute. With this one, as soon as I saw it, it was like, I don't need to do any research for this one. I don't need to look anything up, because this guy is he's one of the players for me. He's been there with me for the whole time. You know, I have spent hours trying to play the drums, trying to sound like Jack deJohnette, and also trying to have his cymbal sound. His cymbals always sounded like they'd been, you know, buried in the earth for a century, you know, and they were dry and dark, and you felt you had to work them, and he worked them. And the way he always had a different setup. It was creative in the way he set up. He would set his toms up in these melodic ways. Sometimes he'd have a big kit, sometimes he'd have a small kit. The way his bass drum sounded, the way he used the bass drum, the way that he utilised the hi-hat. You know, everyone would go and pull like that with the hi-hat. And then Tony Williams came in doing the pash, 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 you know, splashing them. But he had the hi-hat. It was like another voice. All the time, you know, everything, 4-way coordination it's called. Jack deJohnette, the virtuosity is insane. His technical ability on the drums is insane. So you could think this is callous that I've come on here to do this talk. You know, you could even get upset that you found out that in my house I have a Union Jack picture up on my wall. And you can get all upset about that. You can get upset about what you want. You know, you can disagree with me or agree with me. You can say what you want. But the truth is, the reason why I'm here talking to you is I absolutely love this music. I absolutely love these musicians. And I absolutely have lived with this being the artistic touchstone of absolute genius. And on the drums, I would put Jack deJohnette in there. I really would. I really would. He's pretty much unsurpassable as a drummer. He really is. We've lost one of the greats. Thank you for the music, Jack. If I could call you, or should I call you Mr. deJohnette? But anyway, another one has gone, and one of the true greats. Thanks for watching this video, and Jack deJohnette, rest in peace.